Good morning all. In the last session we are discussing about the Dbms SQL commands, right? In the today's session we will try to continue the same. Before continuing the today's session, we'll try to discuss about the things which are all discussed in the last session. In the last session we started our discussion with respect to what is meant by database of its previous session. Then after that, what software to be used to work with this SQL commands. There we discussed we are making use of there are many flavors we are having actually in the market, but we are making use of MySQL here for all our upcoming sessions, right? So we have to download XAMPP software where it is freely available. So download the XAMPP software. There it comes up with a bundle of plenty of softwares. There one database server also be there within that we call by name MySQL. Then we have to start that MySQL server that we have discussed in the XAMPP. Then after starting XAMPP, then copy the path where exactly that XAMPP has installed. There that MySQL bin is pointing that folder. Then copy the path of MySQL where we have installed. Then after that go to that command prompt and paste it and enter, right? There we learned how to enter into MySQL environment. That means getting a path and making our command prompt to point to that MySQL. Then after how to enter into MySQL. To enter into MySQL environment, we discussed MySQL-u root. This is the default user where it gives me a MariaDB kind of, that means it's a guarantee that we have entered into a MySQL environment. Then after that we discussed about the plenty of commands of SQL. There are few commands we discussed in the last session. We'll try to recall all such things. The first command is we discussed once after successfully logged into a MySQL, we discussed how to create a database, right? To create a database, we should make use of a syntax like this. Look at this one, friends. Create database name. Then what's the syntax what is the which database we have created? We have created a database in the name called Cinema. It is similar to purchasing of a site, right? That's it. Create database name. This is what an example of creating a database. Then after that we looked how can I find what all the databases are there, whether in that listed databases the databases what I have created, whether it is present or not. To know that, we are using a command called show databases, right? So let me take you to the show databases command. Look at this one, friends. We are having a list of databases here. There Cinema is also one such database, CinemaDB. This is what we have created. Okay, fine. Let's again go back to our session, that means the commands. Then after this we should not construct our house in some other site. So for that it is required to enter into our own database. To do that we should make use of a command called use database name. That was the database we have created. Cinema is the name, right? Use Cinema. That's it. This is how we can enter into our database. Let me take you to enter into a database. Use CinemaDB. Okay. Fine, database changed. It's an indication that we have successfully entered into our own database in MySQL environment. Let me take back to the slides again. So then after entering into our own database as what we have created by specifying a database name, we need to go with, that means we have discussed about how to create a table creation in SQL. So to create a table, the syntax to be followed is create table name followed by the attribute name. Then the data type we should mention for each and every data type as what we plan to have in our table. Then followed by we should mention, suppose if it's of a string type, we should mention what is the size of that data type, right? Sorry, what is the size of that attribute that we should mention. So to mention any varchar, for a string, if I want to mention any size, we are having two options in front of us, two different data types. One is char type and another one is a varchar. Char means it always takes a fixed number of characters, but in case of varchar, it's a variable length character. That means if I say char of 20, then for that field it fixes a size of 20 characters length. That means suppose if I inserted a movie name with only 3 characters, then also it dedicatedly gives 20 character space for that field even to store that ABC. Most of the time that becomes costly for us. Then what's the best thing? The best thing is to make use of a variable length character varchar of 20. Suppose you can give any number of size, it is not always a 20, you can give 200, 2000, whatever you want, you can make use. Suppose if I use a varchar of 20, then what happens, it truncates the things. That means if I give a movie name like ABC, only it takes 3 characters. So for that, the amount of space to be used is only for 3 characters. So rest of the 17 character space, what will be there, that will not be utilized for storing ABC. This what that means, it truncates the things depending upon the value as what we are going to insert, that means set for that particular field. So for that, varchar is more memory optimized one, that means better thing to be used when compared to the char type. Then after that, for int, it doesn't require to mention a size, directly I can mention int, like that float, double, date type, date time type. There are many different data types. In the upcoming videos, we'll try to look into that data types in SQL. So then after that, we discussed about we created one table in the name called movie. There we placed 3 attributes. Attributes means columns, name, language, then release year, right, or year, something. Then after this, we discussed, okay, it gives me a query, okay, table created. But the question is, I want to see, suppose if it's a new, if you are a new user, you want to know how should be the structure of my table. To know that, we should look into the metadata of this table. That means data about data, what all the data types are there, what all the size, attribute of each size, right? So that everything I should know. To know it, I should make use of a command called describe table. DESC means describe, then followed by the table name. Let us will look into that, friends. So what all the tables are there in my Cinema DB? To know it, show tables. Look at this one, friends. We are having only one table, that is in the name called movie. To know all tables of my database, we should make use of a command called show tables, right? Now, I want to see the structure of that movie table. What all the attributes they are there, all such things. To know it, describe movie. That's it. So this is what the last command we discussed. So it gives me a all list of attributes, then along with the data types followed by some constraint we'll take up in future or today itself. Then after that, we discussed about after creating a table, our next job is how to insert a row into a table. To insert a tuple means a row, right? So to insert a row into a table, we should make use of a command called insert. That means insert into where I want to insert a value. That means the table name we should mention. Then followed by what all the attributes we are having in the table. That list of attributes we should mention here is separated by a comma. Then after this, the values. After the values keyword, we should mention the list of values in which we plan to have for each of the attributes as what we have mentioned here, right? So for one example with respect to this, insert into movie, there we are having 3 attributes, movie name, language and release year, right? So then after that, for a movie name, I want to have a value like ABC. Then for a language, I want to have this Kannada. You can have anything, whichever you want. Then for release year, I want to mention this 2020 something. So look at this one, friends. One thing we can observe here, for a string, no need to mention, for a string, it is required to mention that value within either in a single quote or within the double quote. But for an integer, it doesn't mandatory that it is to be encoded within either single quote or in a double quote. If required, you can make use. If not, then also it works fine. So then after that, after inserting a row, we discussed the next command as delete command. What delete performs? By using delete, we can delete a particular row, whichever row from the table we want that we can delete. For that, the syntax to be used is, we discussed is delete from table name, where, then condition. Suppose if I write only this much, then also it executes. But what happens, guys? It deletes all rows of my table. That means all tuples will be deleted. If you want, you can make use. But suppose if you are very much specific about any row, during that time, you should make use of delete from table name followed by some condition. One such snap here, friends. Delete from movie, where I want to delete a movie which is having a name like ABC. So for that, it deletes the rows which are all having a movie name like ABC. Suppose, let us assume friends, I am having a table where let's say 4 movies having a same name like ABC. During that time, is it deletes only the first row of ABC or all 4 rows? It tries to match with all rows. If which are all the rows which contains a movie name like ABC, then all such rows will be deleted from the table movie, right? So that's it. Let me move on to our next command of SQL as what we have discussed in the previous session. Next command is updating a values into a table. Let me have, for example, I want to update a value, some release year from 2020 to 2019, something of some movie like ABC. To do that, to achieve it, we are using a command called update followed by what? The table name, then set attribute name, that means to which attribute you want to set a new value, that you should mention here. Attribute name, then that means which column, then what's the new value you want to have it in that particular cell, then where some condition. Suppose just if you write only this much and put a semicolon, then if you enter, then this query will also be executed. But what happens, to all rows, that means to all tuples of that movie table, it updates it with new value, because we have not specified any condition. It's an indication that applies to all rows of the table, right? So, but suppose if you are very much interested about to update things of a particular row in the table, for example here, I want to update only the movie having its name ABC. I want to change its release year to 2019. Earlier it was something else, let us assume 2020, that I want to update it to 2019. To achieve it, update movie, then set which value you want to set, release year column, release year cell, then what? I want to set it with a new value called 2019. Then what? Where I am very much particular about that movie name, that means to a particular row movie name which is having a name like ABC. Suppose sir, if multiple movies having a same name like ABC, then what happens? In all such tuples, it updates the release year by 2019. That's it. You can verify it. Fine. These are all the 3 different commands: insert, delete, update, then create table, create database, how to enter into a database, right? So how to describe, that means to know the structure of a data table. All such things we discussed in the previous session. In the today's session, friends, will try to continue our discussion in our table. So for that, let me take you to the MySQL, right? This is what a table. If I want to see the content of a table, select star, where star indicates the column name. That means star matches with all columns. So for that, it displays all columns of my specified table. Let's say for example, friends, I want to display all columns of my table movie. Look at this one, friends. I got all 3 columns and these 2 values, 2 rows they are having in the table. Let's assume, friends, I'll try to insert 1 row into a table. Later we'll enter into our today's discussion. Let's say, friends, insert into table name. Let me call movie name. What all the attributes we are having? We are having movie name, language, then release here, then followed by values. I want to have a values like let's say for example, I want to have a value like PQR, then movie name, let's assume some Kannada, then 2019. For example, let me replace it with Tamil itself. Earlier we are having a Tamil. You can have any value, no issues. There is an error. We'll try to find it, fix it. So actually the error, what is the error? Any guesses? Yes, sure. That means here we are having a movie, instead of a movie table I have mentioned it as M name something. It is wrong, right? So table name I should mention. That's it. Fine. Done, guys. I have inserted a row. Look at this content, friends. Content was changed. PQR Tamil. This is a content. Look at this one, friends. PQR Tamil 2019. PQR Tamil 2019 could be there, right? So we might have a same two movies with the same name, could be released in the same year. But how can I identify, friends? Difficult to identify, you know. It is similar to that in a class. If I say Sachin, suppose if I am having three students in the name called Sachin, it is then all three will raise their hands or what, sir? So during the time, I should identify each person, each student in a unique way. Here also, each movie, I need to identify it in a unique way. I cannot identify, look at this one, friends, based on a movie name or using a language or using a release year. Then what I can do? So for that, what university will do, friends? University or a college, what they will do is, they will assign one roll number, register number or USN, whatever you call. Through that, easily, it is a unique number where no two students will not get a same number, right? So with the help of that roll number or a register number, USN number, based on that, they'll distinguish each and every student of that college or of that university, right? Here also same thing, friends. We'll go with creating an ID. So it is very difficult for us to distinguish two rows or two movies based on either based on their name or based on their language or based on the year. So what else we can do, friends? We need to add one ID to this table, right? So we'll go with giving a unique ID for each and every table. Let's say, for example, this is for 1, 2, 3 and so on. To do that, I need to add one more column. What I can do, friends? What we can do is, could be my friend's suggestions are, sir, delete the table, sir. Then go for creating table, create table, movie name, those things that we can do. But definitely it becomes a very costly solution for me, right? So what best we can do, friends? The best thing what we can do here is, do we have a command to add a column to my table, right? To add a column, that means actually when I add one more column, that becomes what, friends? It is similar to, already I am having a house, someone said, my friend said, hey man, instead of this, have one more wall here and have one more room here. That becomes what? It's an alteration to a house, right? Here also, we should go with altering. That means we are changing the structure of my table either by adding one row or by deleting one row. Usually alteration means what, guys? Alteration means drop one thing or add one thing, right? This is what things, you know. So here also same thing. Let me go with adding one column to my table in the name called, that means to a movie table in the name called movie ID, MID, something we can have. To do that, friends, already I said it is an alteration, right? So to do that, let me make use of alter. Where I want to alter? I want to alter where? To a table, right? So let me go with alter table. Then what next? To which table I want to make this alteration? Could be that I might have many tables in my database, right? So I am very much specific. I want to make this alteration to the house, that means to the table movie, right? Let me mention that table name, alter table movie, fine. What kind of alteration I want? I want to add a column, you know. So it is an addition, right? So let me make use of a keyword called add. Alter table, which table? Movie, then add. Add what? Add a column. Then what name I want to give for that column? So let me give it as MID. You can give anything, it's a user defined name, then MID. That itself is enough? No, you know. I should mention even the data type of that column. Look at this one. For M name, we mentioned it as varchar. Language, we mentioned it as varchar with some size. Release year, we mentioned it some int something, data type, right? So here also same thing. The what column we plan to have in the movie table, even for that also, we should mention the column name followed by, that means the attribute name followed by the data type. Let me call for a MID, what are the values I plan to have? 1, 2, 3, you know. Basically it is what? Number. Number means integer. Can I go with int? Yes. Then put a semicolon, then press enter. Yes, fine. Look at this one, friends. Query okay, rows affected. Then let me look at the table, select star from movie. Oh, what happened, guys? We don't have any values, but we said we want to have 1, 2, 3 there, but we don't have any value there, right? So what to do for this? To do that, we need to I want to set a new value here. To set a new value, which command to make use? Basically, we are updating the content of a table. If you want to change the content of a table, that can be achieved with the help of update command, right? So let me go with updating. Update, which one? Movie, then what? Set MID equal to 1, where M name is equal to some ABC, right? Then enter. Yes friends, look at this one friends. So we got a 1, in the similar fashion we need to mention 2. Suppose if I mention it for 2, it becomes what? For both the table, because since the movie name of both the rows, here it is PQR, even language, everything is same. So what best we can do is, we cannot do anything with respect to this. What best we can do is delete any one row, later we go with updating. Otherwise, if I go with writing a same update command, that is with update movie, set movie ID equal to 2, where movie name equal to some PQR, if I say, look at this one, 2 rows have matched because 2 rows with a name called PQR, so that in both the cases it becomes 2. But I don't want to have like this because I don't want to repeat. I took this movie ID, it is for uniqueness, but what happened friends? That movie ID is also repeated, that I don't want to have. If it is repeated, we are having a problem with identification, unique identification problem, right? To solve this, we took this movie ID, but even that also repeated. What I can do friends? It is required to have a unique number here. That means we should have a some person where we should avoid these kind of repetitions, right? I can have a movie name, could be with the same name, language might repeat, release year, that also might repeat, but I don't want to repeat the same value for this column. Then how can I achieve friends? To achieve it, in Dbms, we are having one beautiful concept that we called by name primary keys. That means keys in SQL, right? Even in school also, a USN is a key to identify each student, here also same thing. A primary key is a concept we are having. By assigning that constraint, actually it's a condition, right? Don't allow a similar value once again further in the table. Basically it is what friends? It's a condition, it's a constraint, it's a rule, right? We are applying. So to apply such uniqueness rule, we are having a beautiful concept in Dbms that we call by name primary key. Let's look into that, how to achieve, that means how to avoid a uniqueness. But already I have created a table. Actually this I can mention during the creation of a table, right? So let's assume friends we have already created a table, right? Now I want to apply this constraint. I want to apply this restriction or this rule, this constraint on this attribute, where it helps me in achieving a uniqueness in this table, so that I can easily distinguish each rows, each table, each rows in a table, right? Each tuple in a table. To do this, I should apply that constraint, primary key constraint, to this MID, movie ID column of movie table, right? Again, if any changes what we are doing on these things, that becomes what? Again an alteration. So even for this also, I should make use of alter table command to achieve this uniqueness. But primary key keyword itself applies an uniqueness on any of the column to achieve a that means unique values to be taken on that particular column. But to do this, I should not have two rows with the same value in that particular column. During the time I cannot apply it. First basic, because that itself violates the rule of a primary key, right? To do that, first I'll go with deleting this row. Once after its deletion, automatically that rule will be followed by this key. Based on that what constraint, that as what I mentioned, primary key, through that we can achieve it. To do that friends, let me go with deleting, because already I am having 1, 2, 2, right? It's a violation of primary keys. So for the primary key constraint, that doesn't allow me to apply this constraint. So for that I am taking out this row. Later I'll go with adding. Even if you give a same value, but primary key column doesn't allow you to write 2 once again. But earlier it is accepted, right? So once after applying a primary key constraint on a MID column, then it doesn't allow you to have a value which is already present in the table. Let me take into that. So first what to do? Let me go with deleting, because I want to apply a primary key constraint on MID. Delete, what is the command, friends? Delete from where, friends? From movie. Which one delete? Which one I want to delete? Actually I want to delete this row, but at this point of time both the rows will be deleted because we don't have any value. Look at this one. Suppose if we don't have a primary key, any uniqueness column in a table, then what happens, actually I want to delete this row, but it doesn't allow me to write a query where I cannot pick uniquely each row in a table, right? This is what a problem, right? So for that, let me go with delete from movie where name is equal to some PQR, right? That's it. Look at this one. 2 rows affected. Let me look into the content of my table. Yes, we are having only one because 2 rows, 2 tuples with the same name called PQR. That's why these 2 rows are deleted. But let me go with inserting with 2 and 3. It's a manual way, but who will remember, what all the MIDs have given? Have given 10, have given 11, have given 1000. Very difficult to remember, because before inserting every row, what I can do is, what all the IDs have inserted for this MID column, that I need to look into that. Definitely it's a very costly thing, right? Let's say for example in IRCTC website, at a single instance of time, there are lakhs together, close together people will be logged in and they're going to book a ticket. For every ticket, we should give a unique number, So how can I give a unique number? Again, go through the table of ticket and find out what number I need to apply for each and every ticket. So that searching becomes a very tedious task. What we want, friends? We should have a constraint where automatically it should handle, right, all such things. To achieve it, we are having auto increment followed by this primary key. We'll discuss primary key first. Alter table. Intention is to add a primary key. You want to make this MID as a primary key. Prior to that, look at this one. Describe movie. Look at this one. Key column is empty because we have not made any of the attribute as a key attribute. None of the attributes are not a key attribute. All are normal attributes only. But my intention is to make MID as a key attribute. That means we are expecting something to be there in the key column, right? So we'll try to look into that, whether it happens or not once after alteration. That means once after applying a primary key constraint on this attribute MID. So alter table, which one? Movie, then what? I want to add a constraint, right? So for that add, what I want to add? Primary key, add primary key. But which column I want to make a primary key? We are having 4 columns there, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. I need to mention the column in which I want to make a primary key within the primary key parenthesis. That means within that we should mention. So which one? MID, I want to make it as primary key. Then followed by semicolon. You can make anything, even varchar also key attribute, right? But it's always suggested to go with integer type as a key attribute. Fine. Look at this one, friends. Query OK, row 1 affected. So that primary key constraint is applied successfully on this movie table. Let me look into the structure of a table, how it affected, whether do we have any value for a key attribute, right? Look at this one, friends. Look at this one, friends. For MID earlier, we don't have any value earlier, but currently once after applying alter table movie add primary key, then followed by that attribute name. Don't go for mentioning a data type there. Why, friends? Already we had a column. We already mentioned the column with data type. Only thing is I want to add a constraint. That's it, right? So to do that, alter table add primary key, alter table movie table name, that is movie, add then the attribute primary key followed by the attribute name in which we plan to make it as primary key. It's over, right? Primary. But we added a primary key, but the question is whether it behaves in the manner as what we have expected. Let me look into that, friends. So first, prior to that, let me display the content of the table movie. So we are having ABC Canada 2021. Okay, already earlier also we are having this one. Let me go with inserting a table with insert into table, which one? Movie. What I want to achieve here is, I want to keep a movie name same, I want to keep a language same, I want to keep a release year same, and even if I try to keep the same value MID 1, the same thing if I want to repeat, then it should not allow me to repeat, right? It should not allow such kind of a tuple. This is what the expected thing, because I can repeat these things, but it should not allow me to repeat the same, right? So let me go with testing this one, ABC, then I mentioned Kannada, same thing, right? Then what? I want to mention 2020, release year also same. Let me mention say movie ID 1. What happens? Earlier it is taking, right? We have seen that. But what is it doing? It's showing error. It's an indication that, look at this one, friends. Is it a problem with the syntax? Let me check. Insert into movie. Oh, few of my friends will say, sir, earlier I have mentioned this also. Okay, values we have mentioned, not mentioned. So earlier I have used a syntax like mention a column name. Okay, let me go with mentioning a column name, language, then what? Release year followed by MID. These are all the columns, then these are all the values. Yes, sorry. Insert into movie, these are all the 4 columns, and for these 4 columns we are entering a value like ABC, then Kannada, then after this 2020 release year and 1. What is the expected thing? Look at this one. Earlier is a error because we missed a syntax with respect to insert statement, but here what? It's a right command. There is no mistake with respect to a command, but showing a error because it's a violation of a key constraint. Look at this one, friends. Duplicate entry. Look at, it is not informing us there's a duplicate entry in the movie name, or duplicate entry in the language, or in the duplicate entry in the release year, but it is only concentrating on what? Duplicate entry 1 for key. Look at this one. For a primary key column, we have mentioned a value like 1. That's why it's showing this kind of a error. Sorry. Look at this one, 1. So I'll repeat the same command. Look at this one. Same command, have typed again. You make use of arrow key, so for that you'll get a, it avoids a retyping of the same command. So suppose instead of this 1, if I mention a 2, friends, look at this one. If I press enter, no problem, because we don't have a 2 earlier in my table. It's an indication that I can repeat all rest of the non-key attribute values, but primary key avoids the repetition of a value again for that particular column in a table, right? So this is what the beauty of primary keys. What's the purpose? Major purpose? We'll try to recall. It is major purpose of primary key is to hold uniqueness in a table. Based on that column, I can avoid that repetition, right? So that's it. Thank you. Thanks for listening.